Yeah, this is the first talk I've done on Zoom, so if I start going cross-eyed, that'd be why. Yeah, so I think over the next few weeks on Sangha nights, they're going to be around, the different sort of symbols in Buddhism. So this is the first talk of, I think, about possibly sort of roughly an 8-week series that lots of different people are doing. The talks on the Vajra and the Bell, the Stupa, the tree. There's kind of just doing one called, I think, Touching the Earth, or the Elephant Stance, maybe, which sounds intriguing. So what I will do is I'll make a start, and I'm just going to talk a bit about some reflections on how to approach symbolism generally, and in a way particularly Buddhist symbolism, but just symbolism generally. If we get a sense of how to approach symbolism in general, then we can have a fighting chance of negotiating the complexity of sort of Buddhist symbols. So it'll be a few sort of hints at what to do, how to negotiate symbols. I'll just, to be honest, I've been slightly sort of stuck on trying to give you an example, trying to give you a definition of what is a symbol. Because I could give you a definition of what is a symbol, and I could say quite easily that a symbol is something that points beyond itself. But then I was thinking, when does a symbol, what's the difference between an icon and a symbol, an image and a symbol and a myth? So what I probably would say is that over the next few weeks, we're just in the realm of the imagination, really. So it's probably just safe if I don't try and define all those complex things, because I don't really understand what they are. But just say that we're in the realm of the imagination, and we're going to be exploring that over the next few weeks. And I'll have a bit of a go tonight at just approaching basic symbolism. Yeah, so like I said, a symbol is something that sort of points beyond itself. So just to get to the basics, this is where my techno abilities are to be tested. So yeah, like I say, a symbol is something which points beyond itself. Hold on, can you see that? Can you see anything on the screen there apart from my face?
Yes.
Yeah, I've got it.
Well, skull.
Can you see just the skull and crossbones, or can you see a whole weird screen?
You can see the slide down the side as well.
Yeah, I can see the slide as well.
Oh my gosh, what do I do? Start from beginning. Brilliant. Oh, that's not the right one. There you go. Okay, so yeah, just very simple. I've just chosen some very simple symbols that you'll sort of recognize. I just have a sense of what the symbol is doing. So the first one is a skull. That symbolizes death. It symbolizes danger. So it's an image which points to something else. So skull, death, danger. Dove, peace. Yeah, symbol. There was another picture image of a dove that I tried to get up that looked like roadkill. It wasn't roadkill, but it was kind of flat, which I wanted to get up, but it wouldn't let me, which I thought was quite funny. It was a drawing, not a photo of a dead dove, to be clear. Next, the heart. Yeah, that just sort of means, obvious symbolism there, love, affection, and all that. Just to say, when looking at symbols, you don't have to be like visually minded. It's not like it's only going to be artists or someone who's into sort of the visual arts that will connect with symbols. As human beings, we've all got an absolutely innate capacity to connect with symbols. It's part of our species. It probably goes back to caveman and woman periods, where it's like, the symbol of, you might try and, the symbol of a saber-toothed tiger, or the image of a saber-toothed tiger means leg it. The image of like a deer might mean, go and kill it. Or berries might mean eat it, whatever. So, we're used to negotiating symbols, images. It's part of our nature. So just to say, this whole series, it's not just for kind of more theatrical types of Buddhists. It's like, without having a sense of image and symbolism and the imagination, we've all got the capacity for that. And without trying to engage with it in a way, we will be really sort of limiting our Dharma lives. We use symbols on a daily basis. We use them a lot, particularly with sort of modern technology, social media. Even if you're not on social media, I'm sure you'll have some kind of phone or laptop or something like that. Even if you don't, you know, it's like we still use symbols all the time. And, I mean, it's good to identify that we use images in lots of ways, like emojis. You know, there's probably on the chat boxes, you know, this is the old kind of handy together praying emojis, is used a lot in Buddhist circles. GIFs, I'm a big fan of GIFs. GIFs are good sort of symbols and images. So yeah, a symbol is a visual shortcut to something else. Yeah, so just to say that some symbols are much more meaningful than others. And different symbols will hold varying degrees of meaning for different people. I'll come back to that a little bit later. But just going from what is a symbol, we'll now move into common Buddhist symbols. So I'm just going to have 3 examples of common Buddhist symbols. This is all a bit of a pre-faff in a way. Oh, did it again. Oh gosh, okay. Right, so the Buddha. So the image of the Buddha is probably the most common, it is, I'd say, the most common Buddhist symbol. It symbolizes enlightenment. We just had a whole series on the sort of 5 Buddha mandala, which is fantastic. Just to say, any symbol as well has different symbols have different complexities of meaning as well, which you probably got a sense of if you were at any of the talks from the previous sort of few weeks on the 5 Buddha mandala. So yeah, this is the symbol of the Buddha, enlightened being. So just interestingly, this symbol is increasingly made its way into the Western psyche. I thought this was quite interesting. It's like these are probably going to end up as garden ornaments. They might be on shrines. They might be sat in some hardcore Satanist garden. It's like Buddhist images have just ended up being sort of part of our psyche or not, and they, you know, even, you know, people who are probably, I don't know, wouldn't think at all about practicing Buddhism seem to connect with Buddhist images. You see them in hairdressers, you see them in spas. Interestingly enough, just a little story on that. A few years ago, when I was still in Nottingham, actually, some friends bought me for my birthday this lovely stone Gandharavan style Bodhisattva. I've got it on my shrine still upstairs. I've had it for years. And for me, it really encompasses my sadhana, which is peaceful Vajrapani. Really beautiful. And for ages, I thought, they wouldn't tell me where they got it from. And I thought, where did they get that from? It's so beautiful. Turns out they got it from TK Maxx. So that just gives you a bit of a sense of, you know, and I thought it was like, wow, they must be a copy from the Victoria and Albert Museum in London or something. It was TK Maxx. And I then saw one a couple of years later in a spa, the same thing that I've got on my shrine, which is a bit funny. So yeah, they become, I think I'm just talking about the fact that images, symbols are movable objects. They don't just sort of stay static. They kind of grab the blah, blah, what I was going to say. They have an effect on people's consciousness. Another symbol, popular Buddhist symbol, the lotus flower, represents the potential within samsara to gain enlightenment. The lotus coming from the mud as a stick out into this beautifully pure blossoming flower. And again, that, you know, that's a sort of it's an image of sort of regeneration, purity. Nearly all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, apart from, as far as I know, Fudo, and there's probably the other odd, slightly random one, are seated on lotus flowers. So very obvious Buddhist symbol in a way. Next, I'm just going to show you 3 of these. This is the 3rd. The Vajra. I think this is the image of the Vajra, and the symbolism of the Vajra is going to recur over the next few months, I think, so as I can see from the outline of the talks. Vajra is quite a complex symbol, actually. It's basically, it's sort of translated as a diamond thunderbolt, and it's that absolutely immovable quality of shunyata, in a way, the emptiness within existence. It's absolutely sort of the indestructible aspect of shunyata. So it's a very strong and quite complex symbol. So that is just 3 Buddhist symbols for you: the Buddha, lotus, and the Vajra, just to get you a sense of the area we are in. So what I'll talk about next is I'm going to start talking about this, the what I've called the sort of spectrum of symbols. So with the spectrum of symbols, not all symbols are meaningful, okay? Some are just totally unmeaningful. Others are more meaningful. So you probably all recognize that symbol. Not a very meaningful symbol. It's the Amazon symbol, of course. So yeah, this is a symbol. It's pointing to something else, something quite mundane, of course. And yeah, Morrison's, fantastic. I just wanted to put that in there. But I'm just sort of saying that that's a it's a symbol for something else. You know, it's a Morrison's logo. It's an icon. It's an icon, an image. It points towards the fact that there's a mark. I just find this very funny. It's a bit of a personal joke. You know, yeah, Morrison's. Roundabout, if you're driving, symbols are really helpful so you don't die. You know, it's like you can see there's a roundabout coming up. Toilet. So these are symbols, you know. I suppose what I'm saying is that not all, if you need a pee, that's a really helpful symbol. If you're driving at speed, that's a helpful symbol. You're looking for Morrison's, that's helpful. So, but they're all obviously sort of mundane symbols without what you would call much meaning or depth. Although maybe for some people that Morrison's has some kind of degree of depth to it. Depends what they're going to buy, I suppose. Yeah, so some symbols are more meaningful than others. Another thing on symbols, and not all symbols are equally meaningful to all people. So not necessarily even as a Buddhist will the image of the Buddha speak equally to everyone. It might not speak very much to some of you, and that's totally fine. That's all. In a way, that's the way it is. So on this spectrum of symbols, I suppose what I'm saying is that at one end you've got meaningful symbols, at the other end you've got Amazon's, Morrison's, and the toilet, which is less meaningful. So in this sort of sphere, this spectrum of symbols, there's more meaningful and there's less meaningful. More meaningful, which will create depth and meaning in your life. Less meaningful, quite mundane, but helpful pointers if you need to use them. And the thing with symbols is that there's an essential quality of symbols is that they're very personal and they're very what's the word? They're very pliable. They're easily moved around. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. Basically, the thing is at this level, at this side of meaning, you've got the meaningful ones here and the mundane ones here. Up here, it's not like you just get all the nice Buddhist symbols stacked on top of each other. It's like, okay, what's meaningful for me is Buddha, a lotus, the Vajra. It might just not look like that. There's going to be, along this spectrum, there's going to be all different levels of meaning. And people will respond differently to the levels of meaning in different symbols. In Tantric Buddhism, they said that absolutely everything on the spectrum has symbolic value. In the Tantra, they go into symbolism really sort of vividly. Just on that, before I forget at the end, I would recommend, I know I was probably supposed to put some link in or something like that, this book by Sangha, actually, Creative Symbols of the Tantric Path. It's absolutely, I'll just put it up there again in case you want to write it down. Creative Symbols of the Tantric Path. it's absolutely genius. There's some amazing stuff about symbolism. It might be a good guide and help to read alongside the talks over the next 2 months. Really fun. I think it's my favourite book by Bhante Sangha, actually. It's just a genius. It's absolutely amazing. Right, that's throwing me. What was I talking about? So different people will respond to different symbols, and don't assume that all your symbols will be just stacked up on one end of the sort of nice Buddhist side. There's other symbols that have different meaning. I think there's going to be a talk on the symbols of the tree by Shantika, but the oak tree for British people is quite a strong symbol. The pentagram, that's not a satanic image, by the way. If you turn it upside down, it is. That's quite a meaningful symbol for me. Again, a symbol of poppies. I just noticed there's a few growing in the garden, and they're just really beautiful. Obviously, there's a symbolism of the First World War and the people that died in the First World War. But then, you've got the rose and the thorn, slightly different layered meaning there. So I think what I'm trying to do, I've spoken about Buddhist symbols and the really mundane ones. So those other ones might be in the middle. But again, this spectrum moves. So within this spectrum, there's a definite sort of room for movement along this symbol, along this spectrum. Okay. So if people respond differently to symbols, images, and myths, the spectrum's not static. But the question is, we need to find our own. This spectrum is personal. The spectrum I have for meaningful images, less meaningful and totally mundane ones, is going to be different to anyone else's. And no two spectrums will look the same. So the question is, over the next few weeks, when you're looking at these myths and symbols and images, how do you sort of engage with them? And what we need to do is we need to sort of uncover and cultivate what I would sort of call the hidden spectrum. So the hidden spectrum is your personal spectrum of meaning, myth, imagery, symbolism. So it's up to you to cultivate your own, find, uncover, and invest meaning in your own spectrum of symbols. And to find meaning in a spectrum of symbols, you've got to be quite mindful. You've got to be quite honest with yourself. And you've got to be, I think, prepared to be a little bit, what's the word? I keep forgetting words today. Words are disappearing. What's the thing? Blasphemous. In your own mind. Don't mean necessarily communicate that to people. It's fine if you do. So there might be a quality of what appears to be blasphemy in your experience. Sometimes, if you're not connecting with what you think it should be a meaningful image. So you need to be very honest to your response and notice your heart's response. So I'm just going to show you some Buddhist symbols that I don't connect with. Just because I suppose I just wanted to share the fact that it's fun. As Buddhists, we don't have to connect with every little bit of Buddhist symbolism. Because if you are, you probably just go a bit mad. Like, we don't have the capacity to connect with all symbols in Buddhism. It would be weird if we thought we did. And we'd probably be kind of like hardcore right-wing religious if we just ardently stuck to every sort of Buddhist symbol and said it had meaning and beat people who felt it didn't have meaning. I think some religions have sort of come a bit of a cropper with that in the past. And again, that's one of the benefits of Buddhism is that, we don't tend to beat other people that don't go along with our values on the whole, although I'm sure it has happened. So I'm just going to show you some Buddhist symbols that I don't connect with, just to let you know that it's sort of, it's okay not to connect. So firstly, the monk or the nun, I do not click with the images, with the whole kind of monk thing. I mean, you've got this guy sitting very peacefully, looking like he might fall off the back of that massive ravine or whatever he's sitting on if he's not careful and plummet to his death. But yeah, for me, the Buddhist monk is just not a symbol that I connect with. I even feel mildly averse to for some reason, and I'm fairly sort of happy with that. I'm not too bothered about the fact that I don't connect with it. So symbols will have different symbols have different connotations for people. And it's okay. What I'm saying is just be honest about your response to stuff. So this is the 8 auspicious signs. This is a bit of a Tibetan image. Again, there are 8 things. I don't know what any of them are. And well, there's the endless knot and there's the Dharma chakra. Apart from that, I mean, I'm just not interested in that image, and in a way, why should I be? Why should we be? This is a Dharma chakra. Again, I just don't connect with this. It's a symbol of the the Eightfold Path, but it's just not a symbol that I connect with. Okay, so yeah, that's just a little bit of a glimpse of this spectrum and what has meaning, what should have meaning but might not. So the spectrum, the hidden spectrum, your personal spectrum of meaning is quite movable. It's quite adjustable. So in a way, we can't sort of trick the heart. We'll have a response to the things we have a response to. And we can't persuade ourselves or force ourselves to have response with particular imagery or symbolism. We just don't have response to it. And I sort of feel in a way with imagery and symbolism, we need to work to our strengths. I'm sure there's a counter argument to this, but we need to work to our strengths. If there's something and I think I've tended to do this over the years, if there's something I'm drawn to, I'll invest it with meaning, I'll reflect on it, I'll look at it, I'll enjoy spending time with it, which is really important. Yeah. So just see what your heart responds to. And in a way, you can't trick the heart. Over the next few weeks, when we have the different images and symbols come up, just see what you respond to. Because some you'll just go, ugh, that's weird. Others you'll be like, you won't know why, but there'll just be a response. And sometimes it's very sort of non-rational usually our heart responses are non-rational, I think, to be honest, but particularly with images and symbolism, it's like, yeah, you could talk about the meaning after, but just watch that initial gut response when some of the images and symbols sort of come up. Okay, I'm totally lost on my sheet. Just give me a sec. So don't try to tidy up your responses by just thinking that the Buddhist symbols will have meaning and other ones won't. There's a lot of richness already in Western culture and the arts in terms of symbols that we will connect to. We will already have symbols that we connect to from Western sort of civilization in the way that we are part of. So there's a lot of richness already there, and in a way, don't prematurely adopt what can be an unfamiliar iconography. So sometimes some of the Indo-Tibetan iconography can be a bit unfamiliar to us. We don't tend to see, I'm still in a way working with the image of the Buddha sitting cross-legged in robes with a bump on his head. In a way, the image really works for me, but I'm just not used to seeing people sitting in robes. And as a culture, we're not. I'm not really used to seeing people sitting on the floor meditating. I didn't grow up with that. So there's a little bit of translation has to happen there. And in a way, I've invested that image with meaning, but still now to some extent, even when I do my sadhana practice, like Vajra, there can be qualities. I mean, when I get into it, the qualities go, but some quality of translation because it's sitting on a lotus and there's sort of, robes and stuff. And, there's certain things that we are brought up with in our culture that we will connect with. So we shouldn't just chuck those out, and we shouldn't just prematurely adopt another set of iconography if it doesn't work. And I think even some things can get lost a bit in translation from Indo-Tibetan imagery over to sort of to Western. So, you know, for me, the Vajra, it's like, it isn't very different from Thor's hammer and from a thunderbolt. Ollie Vartan showed an image of certainly Zeus holding a lovely image of Zeus holding a thunderbolt a couple of weeks ago. And I felt that was a very sort of peaceful Vajrapani-like image. But just coming back a little bit, the two things we need to do in this whole, what's probably looking like a slightly complicated area by now, the way I'm talking about it. The two things we can do is be receptive to our heart's response to images and symbols. See what your heart does, see what your heart says, because it will speak before your mind does, so to speak. But also be active in investing meaning in Buddhist symbolism. So don't just go, oh, I'm interested in pentagrams and oak trees, so I don't quite get the image of the Buddha, so I'll leave it. Do try and invest any connection you have with Buddhist symbolism. Try and invest it with meaning. One of the ways you can invest it with meaning is by seeing what is it in your psyche that is connecting with that, or even what is it in Western civilization and culture and imagery that is similar to that. So, so two things: receptive to the heart, and activate and cultivate meaning that you seem to be connecting with in Buddhist symbolism. Because we're trying to tread the Buddhist path, and it's very important that we activate Buddhist symbols and images, because it really helps us negotiate the world, negotiate our experience, negotiate other people. You know, if you connect with the image of the wheel of life, that can just really help us. Like, what are we doing? And I don't think there's a particularly Western image of the what's the word? Image of the wheel of life. You know, the wheel of life comes from the East, from India originally. So, but for me, it's like the wheel of life is an incredibly rich, complex, and beautiful image that totally sort of works for me. So, that in a way I've had to work with and try and understand and engage and activate with. Okay. I'm sort of nearly finished in a way. These are just sort of introductory sort of points around images and symbols. So I've shown you 3 images that I really don't connect with. I think it was 3. I'll just show you a couple that I do connect with. So this is the image of, so this is, part of my sadhana practice is this image of Vajrapani. The image is grainy because it's a tanker, and I think it's not the quality. But the reason can you see my little cursor, or is it me can see it? Yeah. Okay. So there's something about, I just love Vajrapani. I always have. Again, he's holding a Vajra in his right hand. He's got the demon warning mudra. You can't see it in this. Some images of him. He's covered in snakes. There's a lovely image of him by Aloka, Padma Loka. He's got about 13 snakes. They're around his wrists, his ankles, his throat. They're all over his head. It's absolutely amazing. But it's very important for me that the eyes are looking wildly and bulging to one side. Most Buddhists, quite a lot of the waffle data seem to look to one side. A lot of the peaceful ones look at you, but it's almost like, but for me, it's really important that he's looking to the side. He's almost like in some kind of wild ecstasy in a way, which I just absolutely love. The total overcoming of all obstacles. It just does things for me. So that's an image I really connect with. An image recently I've been really connecting with and I've been drawing quite a lot, is this, I can't say much about it, it's the all-seeing eye, something to do with consciousness, some innate quality in consciousness that I seem to be connecting with in my practice at the moment. And I've been sort of drawing that in lots of different ways recently. I've even been drawing it, like you see on some bodhisattvas, on see the eye on the hand, on Tara has it, and Avalokiteshvara sort of the eyes looking, he sees up the suffering of all beings, and he's infinitely aware. What else is it? These are some other images I've connected with, the elements and the pentagram at the bottom. These are images, again, that I keep drawing quite a lot in my sort of artwork. Yeah, they definitely have meaning for me. They're not so far up right into the meaningful deep myth area of like Vajrapani and maybe the all-seeing eye stuff, but I mean, just me, Vajrapani is right at this end, and there's another image that I'll get to that's a touch further on from it. So these are some images that I do connect with. Okay, we've got an image of knives here, drawings of knives. So I've been interested in knives for some reason since I was a little boy. So I'm just showing you this to say that you can't tidy up the heart. It's like it connects with what it connects with. And I've been drawing a lot of knives again recently, and I just really enjoy it. I don't know why. I don't know what it is, but I mean, I just find these images, there's lots of them on Pinterest actually, and they're partly sort of drawings that people then get tattooed on their person. So I'm showing you this to say, don't worry about trying to tidy up your imagery or what you respond to. We'll respond to some weird and crazy stuff, and you know, that's fine in a way, providing we don't cause harm. And the other thing is, I wish I'd got an image of, for me, there's a real close correlation between the knife and the Paraga, which is the Vajra knife, which pins down demons or limitations. So for me, I did a drawing actually of them together. I wish I'd sort of brought it actually. It was just a knife, a very Western knife like this, and a Paraga, this demon dagger next to it. And for me, the two just absolutely sort of go hand in hand. Okay. Yeah, just one more image that I'll move to, which I think is possibly in some strange way the most meaningful sort of image I have in my life. And it's, for me, it's an image of the order. It's in the image of my whole Dharma life in connection with the Sangha. It's an image that came up a few weeks ago. I can't quite remember the talk, who was doing the talk. Karen Vajra was. But it's of the 11-headed, 1,000-armed Avalokiteshvara. So for me, visually, this is a weird image. And my friend Arlok has said he thinks as a visual image, it doesn't work. And I would tend to agree with him because it just looks odd, like all these sort of arms flying everywhere. But at the same time, for me, it's just such a strong image of my life as an order member, connecting with other order members and trying to make a change and a difference in the world, and that the order coming together can really do something sort of deeply meaningful on lots of different levels. So I think for me, I'm showing you an image, probably Vajrapani and 1,000-armed Avalokiteshvara are right up here. I can't get much, this is the end, so to speak, of my sort of spectrum. So yeah, that's the 1,000-armed Avalokiteshvara. So I think I just wanted to share what's probably that, and Vajrapani are definitely the most two of the most important images for me. Okay, just to slightly wrap things up. What else have I got to say? Yeah, it's up to us to find our own imagery. Find a lot of the images and symbols we'll be looking at are gateways and ways in. It's up to us to invest with a meaning. And, two order members that are doing the Vajrapani practice will have two very different experiences of Vajrapani. So Vajrapani is just a bit of a way in. There might be similarities, of course, but any of these symbols and images are just ways in, and it's up to us to invest in with meaning, so that we can really transform our lives. I've just got a little bit of a story of investing stuff with meaning. When I was living at Padmaloka, this is probably about 1.5 years ago, me and a friend of mine, Tom, were going around churches in Norfolk, and we'd pick random churches in the countryside and just go and look at them and see what we found. And it was unbelievable, the stuff we found. But there was one image that we found. It was a a painted wood panel in a church, and it was of Saint Peter. Saint Paul. So Saint Paul is standing there with a beard, bit bald, holding a sword downwards and with a book in his hand, just sort of looking down. And for me, so just to cut slightly sideways, the image of Manjushri, the Bodhisattva wisdom, was a big flaming sword above his hand. Book, again, imagery that works cross-culturally. A lot of these images work cross-culturally, like I said, with the Vajra, Diamond Thunderbolt, St. Paul, Manjushri. There's a lot of similarity. And I said to my friend, I said, this image of St. Paul, it struck me so much. And I said, St. Paul looks more like Manjushri to me than Manjushri. It was like, that was what Manjushri looked like. But it was an image of St. Paul, technically. But that just didn't matter. It was, for me, that was Manjushri. And also a lot of these angels these beautiful angels, absolutely exquisite. It's like they were more Bodhisattva-like than any Bodhisattva tanka I've ever seen. So, it's about sort of investing images with meaning so that eventually we really connect with something that seems to be incredibly pure, transcendental, and talks to you in a very secret, very direct way to your heart. And when that happens, it really has a huge effect on our practice. So wrapping up, one way of connecting with these images is how to do that is just the obvious things. Reflect on images that you connect with, meditate on them, study them, read around them, reflect on what similarities there are to the Buddhist images in Western culture, so we can fill it out from our own cultural standpoint. There's similarities and differences. The difference in a way is that Buddhist imagery is ultimately of a transcendental nature that brings this shunyata aspect in, but I haven't quite got time to talk about that. So over the next few months, we can just sort of explore quite openly and honestly Buddhist symbolism, and I hope that's given you a few sense, but maybe even try, outside of the talks, just in the week, what is it you're connecting to in Buddha, in just symbolism, Western symbolism, Buddhist symbolism. Just, give it some time, give it some meaning, see where the connections are. Repeating myself now. Maybe in the groups, the questions could be just see if you can have an honest and sort of open sharing of any image that has value for you, any image that has sort of symbolic value for you that you connect with. And you don't really have to say why. You might not be able to say why. That's fine. I can't tell you why drawings of knives, still after 46 years. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with them. Don't know what's going on there. Don't want to psychoanalyze it. They just work for me. So, just see if you can we can just, discuss what imagery works, how sort of different symbols work for you. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you very much.